A TNA star has requested their release and it has been granted. A WWE star has been fired and it's controversial. And yes, we are going to talk about the official all-in numbers. It's all coming up right here on the Ango Show. Yes. Welcome back to the Ango Show. I want to kick things off. Let's talk about AEW All In. That's because the turnstile count for AEW All In 2024 has been revealed, and WrestleNomics has come out with the official number, which was 46,476 total fans. We know Tony Khan had said that there was over 50,000 that were sold. And WrestleTix, their last estimate that they had prior was 53,385. So obviously there is a little bit of a discrepancy here with the number. I think a lot of people are going to talk about this, honestly. I think a lot of people are going to be super weird about this for whatever reason, but I still think this is a impressive number. And quite frankly, I think if you're AEW, you should be proud of this number. Yeah, it's not the same that they had, last year. Obviously AEW wasn't trying to do the same amount of tickets as the previous year, but I think this is still a good thing. I think anybody who is looking at this as a bad thing, I think they are just doing it with bad faith. Truth be told, AEW is still a young company. They're still growing. I feel like All In was a great pay-per-view, but also at the same time too, we have to admit that AEW is not as hot as it was before. And I think that's incredibly important to mention because AEW has cooled down. Even though I'm enjoying the product much more this year than I have in the last 2 years, I would be absolutely foolish to try and act like it's not been cooled down. And it's been cooled down for a variety of reasons. We could sit here and discuss this all day. They lost CM Punk. They lost Cody Rhodes. They lost people in this company that were integral to the growth of this company. A lot of drama surrounding the company. And I think what often happens is that fans got sick and tired of it. I think fans truly got turned away from AEW. It doesn't mean they can't rebound. It doesn't mean that they can't fix the issues that they have. But I think when you look at that and then, the last 2 years creatively, some people just aren't feeling fulfilled with it. I think it leads to fans dropping out and saying, listen, I'm not really interested in investing my time to watch this product. And that's okay. Like that happens, but you got to be careful and you can't let it get to the point where it completely kills your company. And no, I'm not saying that AEW is dying, but my point that I'm trying to make is that AEW did lose momentum. That is true. That is factual. There is numbers and statistics and analytics that provide the facts of the basis of that statement. And that is completely fine. For AEW, I think they need to keep staying positive. I think they need to keep doing what they're doing. And they need to try and get people hooked back in. I think it's all possible. It's really up to them. And that's what's most important. I want to talk about Odyssey Jones. This should be the last update regarding Odyssey Jones. It appears that we finally have an answer to the madness. It took a little bit of time, but it appears that Odyssey Jones was in fact fired from the WWE. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select today reported that Jones was not backstage at last night's Raw. The report also goes on to say that Odyssey Jones was removed from WWE TV when domestic violence allegations came to WWE's attention. At this time, it is unclear whether charges have actually been pressed against Odyssey Jones. However, Brian Alvarez also chimed in publicly and reported that he was in fact fired by the WWE. Now, with that being said, we got to be very clear here. These are just allegations, and at the time of these allegations, there's no knowledge as to whether or not there's been any legal charges pressed against Odyssey Jones. Now, I do want to point out that it has come to a lot of people's attention that there was a very small Twitter account that was floating around with tons and tons of allegations about Odyssey Jones last month. Nothing really ever came to fruition from that. Maybe this has a little bit of a connection to that. I don't know. But what I will say is this. With Odyssey Jones and the WWE situation, it's quite simple. WWE has a lot going on because of the Vince McMahon situation. And because of that, obviously WWE is, they're going to be proactive in this case. Also, too, in general, domestic violence, it's not a joke at all whatsoever. So allegations come up, they should be, looked into with the utmost importance. And it's unfortunate. This is a guy who was getting over. This was a guy being given an opportunity. This was a guy who was starting to make waves with the fans, and fans were really starting to like this guy's work. And I think what's really important for people to understand here is that this type of stuff is not tolerated at all in the slightest, and you shouldn't be rewarded. You know, and obviously there's a whole legal process for things like this to be worked on, and you know, eventually we'll get all the answers that we're looking for. Whether we get it soon or later, I don't know, but obviously time will tell. Just a really unfortunate sequence of events, and look, at the end of the day, this is one of those things where it's not tolerated. So if it comes up, you know, I'm not advocating for anybody to lose their job just based on baseless allegations, but I feel like WWE, especially at a time like this, right, like they're going to be on top of this all over it, and that's the right thing. You got to be on top of it. We'll see what comes from it, but just really unfortunate. I feel like there's been a lot of promising talent who have had a lot of potential and a lot of things that can happen, and then eventually what ends up happening is something from their past or something legally gets in the way, and it deters them and it completely screws them over. And you know, I'm one of those guys. I believe you are innocent till proven guilty, and obviously we'll have to wait for all the facts to come out, but clearly this is a big situation. And I mean, I said it the other day. I told you guys, I said, listen, like, nobody gets pulled off of the website, nobody gets pulled off of TV with no mention unless something has happened. And WWE has very quickly tried to make people forget about Odyssey Jones even being involved in the storyline. So that is something that people do got to pay attention to. Obviously, we will see what happens next. All right, let's talk about TNA. Giselle Shaw has requested her release from TNA. According to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, she requested her release from TNA, and TNA did grant her release. It sounds like this was a pretty easy process. It doesn't sound like TNA was gonna, you know, have her wait it out. It didn't seem like TNA was gonna bullshit with her or anything like that. You know, basically the thing was, hey, you got to work the final tapings and put someone over, and you can go. And this isn't really shocking, to be honest with you guys. Giselle Shaw, everybody knows Giselle Shaw is with Scott D'Amore. So obviously, you know, Scott's got his own thing going on with Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. I'm going to assume that Giselle Shaw will continue to work alongside Scott on that project. Look, nobody really knows the real reason why she requested out. But I will say this, just based on the reports and based on what I'm reading, the fact that she was able to request her release and TNA was not giving her a hard time, it's a good thing. You know, I've always been one of those guys when it comes to requesting your release. If it makes sense, just do it, right? And if you're the company and it makes sense to let them go, it makes sense, right? Giselle Shaw, phenomenal talent. A lot of great things I could say about Giselle Shaw from a talent perspective. I know my own personal encounters with Giselle Shaw when I visited TNA, all positive. So best of luck to Giselle. TNA is losing the great Knockout. You know, there's rumors that maybe Jordynne Grace could be on her way to WWE. Like, there's just so much that is being talked about right now. I don't know. This is the time for somebody to step up, though, right? Like, TNA's Knockouts division, they weren't able to get Camille. Jordynne Grace might be on the way out. Deonna Purrazzo left. Giselle Shaw, I think, is a key name in the Knockouts division. So anytime you get a big departure, it's important that you go and you work around that and try to rebuild. We'll see what TNA does, but overall, this is, you know, is it shocking? No, I think it was kind of written on the wall once Scott D'Amore was gone. But as far as, you know, the whole way it panned out, like I said, from the way it sounds like it was amicable. TNA was totally cool with it. It doesn't sound like there was any negative drama here, which is always good. And just another big loss for TNA. And, you know, that's unfortunate. I think for TNA, they got a lot of momentum right now and they're growing and they're doing some cool things. But at the same time, too, they are losing top talent to WWE and AEW. So, you know, we'll see how this all pans out. Obviously, if she shows up in WWE or AEW, or if she goes strictly to Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling plus some other indies, time will obviously tell. So, yeah, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching The Ango Show.